That's what I said.
That's what she said.
You played a great set, by the way, both nights.
I like that.
Yep.
If you guys have never seen Mike play, go and see him. Seriously, do yourself a favor. Go watch Mike.
Wow, that's amazing. Just stop it. Do you have your advice ready to go, baby? My best advice is brought to you by Mims Ukes. It's where I buy my ukuleles, and also by my amazing supporters on patreon.com. If you like the podcast and feel like supporting it, go to patreon.com/Mike Hind, capital M and capital H, and become a sponsor, or at least a patron. So I'm here with my darling friend, my spirit animal, my Amanda Lynn Boisen. Welcome to the show, everyone. I love advice. I love getting advice. I love hearing other people's advice and about the things that have helped them in their life. That's one of the reasons that I like Facebook that much. I love seeing good memes with good advice on it.
Or bad.
Or bad advice that makes me laugh. What is it? You can't trust anything you read on the internet. Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
So when I decided to do a podcast, which is something that I've wanted to do for a while, and our dear friend JT Shea was one of the people that inspired me to do a podcast.
We love you, JT.
We love you, JT. I just thought this would be a good idea for a podcast, and I seem to have been proven right so far. So here we are. I'm your host, Mike Hind, and this is my best advice. So we are here with amazing singer-songwriter Amanda Lynn Boisen.
Hi.
Who is one of my favorite people in the world. Tell us about yourself, my darling.
Well, I'm just a big giant nerd that plays music and writes about stuff. And
She's not literally a giant. She is a normal-sized person.
Mostly normal-sized.
She's not like, anybody want a peanut?
No, I'm pretty tall for a girl, though.
You're tall for a girl, but you're not a big giant. You're like an average-sized giant.
Different levels of giants.
Yes. Like I'm the world's smallest sumo wrestler impersonator. And you are the world's smallest big giant. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And who are you? What do you do? Why are you on this show?
Well, I play ukulele, and I was sucked into the ukulele world back in 2008. The Bushman ukulele luau.
That was before I was born.
back when you were just a thought.
I was just a glimmer in my father's eye.
Yeah, I started ukulele back then, met Julia Nunes and CISO and everyone.
Julie, I want Julie on this show really badly.
You should definitely have her on the show.
We have Danielle Ate the Sandwich coming up soon, which is my other massive hero.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah. I've been watching both of them on YouTube forever.
I know. Since I started. I think both of them I started watching before I played the ukulele.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same here, yeah. I saw Julia's stuff first just because we both entered the contest that Bushman put on. And I was like, I want to do that. That right there. That's what I want to do. Same thing with Danielle.
Yeah, they were two of the, and those of you that are listening, that are going to listen to one of the next ones, you will hear this story again. But they really were the two people out of all of them that made me go, oh, I can do this. Like, it doesn't have to be like a silly little thing that I'm just messing around with. Like, I can actually make music with this.
You can actually like translate emotion through it and have a conversation. Yeah. Yeah.
It really blew my mind, and I'm really happy that Julia is someone that I can email and say hi to every once in a while, and now I hope Danielle will be. We'll see. We'll see very shortly. Okay. And Amanda Lynn Boisen has a CD out, came out last year.
No, it was
year before
October
last.
of 2013.
Oh my goodness.
I now have more than enough material for like 2 more albums.
Good.
I just
That's
need
awesome.
to, actually sit down and make the CD.
And it's her CD is called the one that you can buy at this point is called Ambition and Other Things, and it is beautiful and awesome. And
Thank you.
we listened to it about 4 times in a row when we first got it. We put it on in the car. We were at the Tampa Bay Ukulele Getaway, which we are at right now. We are in Tampa, Florida.
Woot woot.
Big shout out to the Tampa Bay Ukulele Getaway. And we left there to go back up to Disney, and we listened to your CD the entire way up there, going, "Damn, girl, come on now."
That's awesome.
Which is one of the best compliments a Bermudian can give you. It's just, come on now.
Come on
now. So there we are. So Amanda is here to tell us the best advice she ever got. So give us a story about the advice. Who were you as a person? Where were you in your life? Where were you geographically? Because one of my favorite stories by you is Amanda was in a band called the Barn Kickers with her father, the incredibly talented Steve Boisen. The lusciously attractive and lavishly appointed Steve Boisen.
Oh, he's going to love all
I
this when
know.
he hears it.
And I had thought that the Barn Kickers was just like a really cool sort of retro-y kind of thing. And it turns out that this is not, in fact, the case. Where does the name Barn Kickers come from? I know you've told this story a million times.
I haven't told it in a really long time. Okay, so I spent most of my adolescence from like 12 to about 19 in Tennessee. I originally grew up down here in Florida, but I moved up there, and it was a culture shock suddenly being in kind of this rural setting and being surrounded by horses and cows and having land and whatnot. So I basically had a childhood that was kind of like Bridge to Terabithia. I would just go out in the woods and like
Without the whole
dying
Bridge
part.
of Terabithia thing going
without
on
the
there.
death part. But I had a couple neighbors of varying degrees of niceness. One of them was just plain evil. She's the kind of person like you drive past her and she's got like the hedge clippers, and as she's clipping the hedge, she just glares at you, and like she's gonna gonna chop off your head with the hedge clippers.
You don't do that to people.
Yeah, she was awful. She was just a terrible person, and we had a big pack of dogs for protection, and just because people would drop off their dogs in the middle of nowhere and they'd wander onto our land, so we had like an entire pack of these varying size dogs, and one of them was very big. One of them was a very sizable, kind of scary looking dog. So in some ways I kind of can't blame her, but I guess one of our dogs went onto her land and she decided she was going to shoot my dog. Now my dog survived, but in learning this and knowing that it was her, I went to her land to confront her. I couldn't find her, and all that was there was a very broken down, disheveled looking barn.
And how old are you at this point? This is the bit that gets me. How old are you at this point?
I think I was 16.
Oh, I thought you were younger than that.
Well, I might have been 15.
Okay.
Now, I'm not quite sure.
Anyway.
I think I might have been like just getting into high
So
school.
you were a youngster.
Yeah, I think I was just getting into high school, so maybe it was more like 14 or 15.
Okay.
So I go up to this barn, and just to get some sort of anger out, I kick it, as one does.
As one does.
And my one little baby kick, because I'm sure there wasn't much power in that, completely destabilized this barn, and it just collapsed. And my resolve went from, total anger and just revenge to, oh crap.
I have to go now.
And I just took off running back home, and I still told the story, of course. And when MySpace was still a thing, way back in the day, for occupation,
Back in the day when I was still a grown-ass man. I was an old man at that point.
Back in the MySpace days, I put my occupation as barn kicker.
That's brilliant.
And my dad thought that was really funny.
It is, and that tells you everything you need to know about you guys as a family, you guys as people, that your father thought that story and was funny enough to name your entire band after.
Destruction of property.
Yes, it's amazing. So this advice that you were given, who gave it to you?
I think it's been given to me a couple times in different ways, but the time that it really stuck with me was my dad. My dad said it. And my dad has been a source of a lot of amazing advice for me throughout my entire life. Both my parents have. But my dad deals with a lot of the same anxieties that I do, and kind of that just getting overwhelmed. And I think every artist, I have yet to meet an artist, either in the uke world or outside of it, that isn't anxious, that doesn't have issues with anxiety.
Yeah.
And handling the little stuff that just hovers like right under the surface, so you're not actively anxious. It's just a background noise, and it's just waiting for you to build more on it and then just like really freak out. So learning how to manage that was like a lifelong discovery. But my dad's main advice to me was to
Don't tell me yet.
Okay.
No,
okay.
you need to.
All right. There's an order to this.
Yes, we get to the advice. I just want to sort of set the scene.
Okay.
And how old were you when you got this advice? You were already performing at this point, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. I was, I think I was just getting into college, my first year of college, which was a completely insane year. I was a music education major, which is a double major. Most students take on 16 credit hours their first semester. I was taking on 23.
Because you are a performer, and if we don't have enough anxiety, we create more for ourselves.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, it was a 5-year program that was shoved into 4 years. So in order to graduate on time, I was going to have to take over the limit. You have to get special permission from the dean to get over 20 hours a week, and I got permission every semester I was there to kill myself, essentially.
It's insanity.
So yeah, I was doing 23 credit hours, sometimes 24, varied between those two numbers every semester. Then I had to practice 10 hours a week, and then usually about 5 hours for performances throughout the week in the different ensembles I was a part of. So there were a lot of stressors in my life. I went right into college, fresh out of high school. I didn't do any sort of gap year or anything. I just went straight into it. And
what year was this?
This was 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
So just after you were now playing the ukulele.
Yeah, I just
because you
got
were
into the
clarinet,
ukulele.
right?
Yeah, clarinet.
I remember things.
Yeah, and the other ones as well, but it was mostly clarinet for the first year. And yeah, I played ukulele at that point, so that's when I really got into making YouTube videos, and I was just like churning them out because I wasn't too worried about quality. I just wanted to get them out there. So I made all these dorm room crappy YouTube videos, and that was my way of getting away from what was going on at school. And I was looking.
Are these still available? Do you want them to be available?
They're not on YouTube anymore. They're not.
Don't go looking.
Yeah, don't go looking. I do still have some of them, and I've thought about releasing them. I'd be like, look at
www.waybackmachine.com. No.
But in those days, I was actually, I was watching like Julia and Danielle, and I was watching them, and like that's what I want to do.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was at the point that I was having kind of an internal war of like, do I want to continue down the music education path and be a high school band director and not perform and only educate, or do I want to completely abandon that and be a performer? And for me, there wasn't a big in-between because I was paying money to go to university, so I had to make that decision. Yeah. So it was a very crazy time in my life.
That's nuts. Okay, so what was the advice?
Now I can say.
Now you can tell me the advice. Now you're allowed to.
It's really simple, but it's about putting things into perspective.
Honestly, most of the advice that people have done on this show so far has been, hasn't been this huge revelation thing.
Yeah.
It's been the most important advice that people have been getting are little tiny things.
Yeah.
So what was it?
Make 2 lists. One is a list of things you can control, and another is the list of things you can't. And
I live by this.
It's just it's a simple thing, and it changed my life. It really did, because I did make lists. I made lots of lists, and I still do. Just random lists of things that I need to do, that need to be done. But it was one list. And a lot of the things on that list needed to wait for other parts of the list. And trying to put it in order, it made no sense.
Yeah.
So in making two different sides of the list, I at least could look at the part that I couldn't control. And even if my big stressors were on that list, I was able to prioritize it better and put it in perspective and be like, well, yes, that is the majority of my stress, but I literally can't do anything about it right now.
It's an amazing exercise in acceptance. And learning how to accept is such an important lesson that we have to learn. I mean, it's the serenity prayer, really. You know, the toughest part of the serenity prayer is the last part, isn't it? You know, the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, the courage to change the things that can. And then the tough part, the wisdom to know the difference.
Yes, yes.
Which piece goes on what list. And that is actually amazing advice that your father is a pretty smart fella.
Yeah, my
He'll
dad,
do.
My
We'll keep
dad
him.
has as much anxiety as me, but you would never know it. He is just like a rock in the storm. He is just like so solid. And with that advice, I was able to kind of like, you know, if there's something on the list that I can't control and it's like that one thing and it's just really bugging me, I would kind of like make a deal with myself, like, well, what if I do these 5 little things that I feel like equal that one big thing?
Yeah.
And those 5 little things I can control. Let's just do them now.
Yeah.
And I'll, in my mind, try to make that equal that big thing. Like all about, you know, stress levels and trying to like keep them in line with each other and have like little equations between the two lists.
That's awesome. And yeah, and so were you successful in figuring out sort of how to accept the other list?
It took time. It definitely took time
It is
because
not the easiest thing in the
knowing
world
how to
do.
make the two lists, okay, got that. It, like you said, learning to accept the things on the list that you can't control, or even if you can control them, like to a certain point, but the rest is left up to someone else's decision or fate or whatever, and having to. This is kind of the second part. It was part of the same conversation I had with him. It was before my second year of college where I didn't even know if I was going to go back.
Yeah.
Because my first year, it was just, I exhausted myself. I completely broke down. Didn't know if I wanted to continue with my major. I didn't even know if I wanted to go back to college. And, you know, I didn't even know, at that point, I had lost all of my scholarships funding. So I was going to have to take out student loans. So it was really
Jesus.
like a tight place for me to be in because I literally had no idea what was going to happen, and it was all banking on this one thing. And he was like, if this thing doesn't happen, are you going to die? Is the world going to crack in half?
Yeah. Smart fella, your dad.
Is humanity going to fall? I
Yeah.
mean, what is actually the bad thing that's going to happen? If this doesn't happen, you can't go to school this year. Okay, you don't go to school this year. You figure something else out. But, you know, the worst they can say is no. The worst that can happen is it doesn't work out. And then life goes on. And learning how to put that into perspective.
So the next question is, did this advice and did making these lists, did they help you? Because I know how artists are. We're flaky as hell. And we say that we're going to do stuff and we don't do it and stuff. Did it help you with that aspect of your life? Of, you know, actually writing down these lists of stuff that you know you can do and you know you can change.
Yeah.
Alongside a list of stuff that there's nothing you can do about.
Yeah.
Having that list, knowing that this is stuff that you can change. Did it help you start doing those things as opposed to just sort of leaving them on the list?
It did. It did. I find that the list thing works for the stress part, but doesn't help as much with the motivation part.
Okay.
So this is another part of my dad's advice that I guess I can just mesh in.
Meld it in
part.
there. We still got 10 minutes.
The other thing that I'm still really working on, I know he's still working on it, I think we all are, doing something every day for your career. Even if it's updating a bit of text on your website, or maybe it's just finishing that third verse on that song that you've been piddling around with for 2 weeks.
You wait, 3 verses?
Sometimes I
Wow.
do. Sometimes I do.
That's what I'm doing wrong. I do 3 choruses.
Well, sometimes you write a song and you don't put any chorus. It's all verses.
Ah.
You should try that. It's interesting.
No, because the first song that I ever wrote, I decided to be clever and change the words to every chorus. And
Why
now
did you do that?
because I'm an idiot, now I can't remember how the song goes. Like, I have to have the words in front of me of the song that I wrote.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where I am in it.
Yeah. It's always great when you can't remember the words of your own song. I created this. I don't know it.
This is my baby. Well, it's a bit like, when my grandmother used to call me Pete Mike because she'd never remembered my name.
Pete Mike.
Except my brother's name is Peter. And so she's like, oh, Pete Mike. Mike, it's Mike. I know it's Michael. My mother used to call all 6 of us, there are 6 of us in the family, she used to call us because she was on the phone. She'd be like, they wouldn't call our names, just snap at us. Take swats at us and stuff.
My dad
But
does that
it's a
kind
bit
of
like
stuff.
that. It's a bit like, I created this and I can't remember what I called it.
Yeah. Well, my name's Amanda, and my brother's name is Andrew. So Andy and Mandy. My dad mixes it up all the time.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
Does he ever call you Amandra?
I'm sure he has.
Amandrew?
I'm sure he said some variation of that before.
Andramanda?
Amanda.
I created this and I don't remember how it goes.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So how else has this... I mean, the advice is very much... It is something that I try to live my life by, that figure out what you can change. Figure out what you can't change. And then learn to accept that. If you can't change that, you really just have to not necessarily let it go. You hold on to it. Or you figure out ways you can change it.
Yeah.
But it is, if it's something that's completely out of your control, you've got to let go of it and sort of figure out an alternate direction. And it is something that I've had in my life. I've had the serenity prayer in my life since I was about 6 or 7 years old. There's addiction in my family, throughout my family. It's a running stream through my family. It's a running stream of vodka and whiskey, actually. And so I've been, I went to Alateen as a kid, and we did Al-Anon and all that stuff. So the Serenity Prayer has been part of my life. But it wasn't until I was much later in life, as an adult, that I sort of went, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I love that is your dad's advice, because I do very much respect your dad as a person, and it's nice knowing that there's like similar thoughts and similar thought processes.
There is.
So has this made your life better?
Oh yeah,
Like-
100%.
Awesome.
But in the process of seriously becoming a musician and really working on my craft, with the motivation and trying to keep on top of that, I also have a problem on the other side, and that's knowing when to leave something alone and not keep improving on that one song forever and ever and ever, and just knowing that eventually you have to leave it alone. Because I'm myself as a musician, I can listen to recordings that I made 6 months ago, and I can already hear how I've gotten better, which is great. I love it.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy about it. I also hate it.
Yeah.
Because I listened to my album from 2 years ago, and I don't perform like that anymore. I don't sound like that anymore. And it's sometimes kind of frustrating because, I hand people my album now, and I'm like, that's me 2 years ago. That's not what I sound like now. That's not a representation of who I am. And I want to make another album, but everything that I have lined up for the next album, I'm still constantly going in, and changing and changing and changing. And I never saw anything wrong with it until one day my mom was like, well, you have to stop somewhere, so then you have like a landmark. Mm-hmm. So whenever you write something else a couple years down the road, if you haven't changed that song, you get to see where, like, a snapshot of you at that time.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Don't you think it's wonderful that you have this?
I do.
This is me 2 years ago, and you know who you were 2 years ago, and it very much, and thank God you've improved and gotten better and changed, because
the day that I go 6 months without improving or changing at all, I'll honestly be worried. I think you're never done.
43.
Yeah, you're never done learning
When you
and
hit
growing.
43, you go, what have I done in the last 6 months? Holy crap, nothing. Well, I watched an entire series on Netflix last weekend.
Oh, what series was that?
I don't know. Well, Daredevil was a couple of months ago. I
I
watched
need
that.
to watch that.
So good. And Jessica Jones is coming up. That's going to be me locked away in the for a while.
Was it about productivity?
Yes.
Work on your career every day.
Well, that is working on my career because Jessica Jones, a couple of the episodes were directed by a friend of ours who is very good for my career.
Okay, all right.
Welcome to Rationalization for Being Lazy with my kind. I'll be your host, figuring out how to not do stuff
How to not do stuff.
for the rest of the afternoon. Now, that is one thing that I am very good at, is figuring out how to not do stuff.
I think all musicians are good at doing
Oh,
that.
God, we're amazing at it.
I haven't met a single musician that's not a horrible procrastinator.
Well, I would be, but I can't be bothered to do it right now.
Ah.
Thank you very much.
That was a good one.
Studio audience reacted appropriately. Didn't even look up or show up. So yeah, that was very cool. So you are writing now.
Yeah,
You're writing like a fiend.
I'm writing a lot. It's just lately it's just been like a lot on guitar.
But that's fine.
Which isn't but it's not helpful for the uke world sometimes.
No.
When I right now have about 3 or 4 new songs that I'm very excited about. But like being at this event, I'm like, oh well, I have my guitar, but this is a uke event.
And that's, yeah, I get where you're at, but there comes a time where the uke stuff, even in the uke world, has to sort of, I think, become more accepting of that. There really is I don't play the guitar, and I don't want to hear that and stuff, and.
Well, I think that, and this isn't meant to be me criticizing the community at all, because it's definitely not.
Absolutely not.
I think the number one way to, when you're taking something that's unique and you want it to be accepted widely as a recognized instrument, the number one way to not do that is to make it
exactly.
Exclude it.
Let's not be exclusionary.
Exactly, make it completely
Yeah.
exclusionary, and have festivals where there is kind of a feeling like, oh, you brought something that's not a uke? Well, this is a uke festival.
Yeah, and I mean, I do get the protectionism of it,
Totally.
because it has been crapped on for so long.
Yeah.
Even now, I mean, last night at the festival, there was a comedy club thing going on, and all the comics were sort of making fun of these stupid people playing ukulele. And
Yes.
to be honest, I was sitting there going, dude, you're playing in a Holiday Inn bar
In Clearwater,
Florida, next to the second biggest airport. Like you're not even at like the airport hotel. You're at the budget, the beta tested airport hotel.
At a comic open mic.
At a comic open mic, you are in no position to look down your nose at anything.
Yeah. Well, I just think that sonically, the uke sounds so good with bass or with just guitar, and I mean those 3 instruments right there. They're happily married. They belong
Absolutely.
together. So I think in situations where you have people coming in that are playing it very lightly and are not trying to completely take over everything,
Yeah.
I think it's a great sound.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I do love it when I play with other people, really good musicians, because I do what I do. I play what I play, but other folks that are really, really good musicians, like our friends Kojo and Ben in the band that run the open mic at home, and the drummers that play there, they always leave that space in the music for where I'm at.
They're very conscious of what's happening.
And it is such a wonderful feeling and such a wonderful sound, and it really does add to it. And, as you were saying, it is very important, I think, and you and I have had this conversation, I've had this conversation with many people in the ukulele world, about how we do have to try to transform this outside of this novelty thing.
Yeah, it needs to get outside of the niche. It needs to...
Exactly, the protectionism, the exclusionism at the beginning was very understandable because it was the underdog.
When we were breaking out of the mold of Tiny Tim,
and Formby and
all of that. I think, the festivals are there not just to celebrate the instrument, but to show to people on the outside as well that it's an incredibly approachable instrument. It's not intimidating like a guitar. It's very communal. It's like a drum circle, except it's a uke circle. But I think that another part of that is showing that it has a place with other more established instruments.
Exactly.
And it definitely has a place.
I mean, Aldrin Guerrero, his shows, he's doing a solo show tonight. But, when I played with him in Portsmouth, he played with Aaron Nakamura, who plays guitar, and it was fantastic. Just added on to it added on to the sound sonically. It filled that space.
Well, I started out as a guitar player. I mean, I started playing guitar when I was 12. I just picked it up and just kind of took off. And when the ukulele became a thing when I was about 16, I had to be half and half about it because I would just kind of get tired of hearing the uke. It was a dynamic that if I wanted to write something that was kind of darker and deeper, the uke just sonically wasn't able to give me that.
Yeah.
And being able to go back and forth and be 50-50 between guitar and uke, it just provides more dynamic. And I know some musicians that play uke that are very afraid to get into like a baritone or a guitar. They're afraid to vary up their sound because they've kind of built a brand around the ukulele sound. But I think, again, that exclusionary kind of mindset is just going to...
Totally understandable. Where it came from, it's totally understandable, but I think we've moved past where people do look at it as just a silly little thing. I mean, in the past 3 years of me playing, or 4 years of me playing professionally, I have seen a difference in my audiences of people. When I first started doing this, it was, oh, look, it's a ukulele guy. Isn't that funny? And it was very much a big gimmick thing. And now people come down and they just see a guy playing the ukulele and like, oh, this should be kind of cool. And it's kind of awesome. So thank you so much, Amanda Lynn. Any other plugs? You have no idea when your new album's going to come out, do you?
I don't. But I have a feeling that, I want to make it to the quality level that the first one was at because I'm very happy with how that turned out. And I was so lucky to have my friends help fund that through Indiegogo. And I'm sure I'll be doing a campaign again and see if anyone wants to support me doing this crap again.
I'm thinking about doing one now and I'm terrified.
Yeah, it's scary, but, our community is just amazingly...
They are the best people in the world.
They really are. They really are. And I wouldn't have an album without them. And the support that they gave me, I
completely agree.
Can never repay. But yeah, I am working on a new album. And for everything else, my website, AmandaLynnSings.com.
AmandaLynnSings.com.
I'm also on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. Everyone, please nag me to make another YouTube video.
Exactly.
I have all of the equipment to make a beautiful, beautiful 1080, color graded video. I have all the equipment. I'm just lazy right now.
So everyone, please send messages to her on. I
have a contact form on my website, and
go
I'm
to
on
the contact
Facebook.
form and at least once a week go send a thing. Are you on Patreon?
I'm not on Patreon.
We're going to get you on Patreon because it is wonderful. I've just started putting the podcast on Patreon, and my amazing patrons, they are now sponsoring me $21 per episode, which means that I'm going to buy you a Coke.
Yes.
Because
thanks,
we can now
patrons.
thanks, patrons. We can now afford to buy you a Coke, and this episode is brought to you by the amazing people that do sponsor me on Patreon. It's also brought to you by mimsukes.com. If you're looking for a ukulele, you can do a whole lot worse than go to mimsukes.com. She will set you up and set up your ukulele and make it sound like butter. She fixed yours today.
Yeah, she just fixed my...
She literally just fixed
my
Amanda's.
beautiful handmade uke. She did amazing things to it.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for doing this with me. I know it was a bit short notice, but...
No, it's fine. This is my first podcast, so thank you so much
and
for
hopefully
having
not
me.
your last.
Hopefully not.
Thank you all so much for listening. I've been Mike Hind. This has been My Best Advice with Amanda Lynn Boisen. Thanks for listening. Good night.
The apple falls so far from the tree. I think I've lost sight of who I used to be. Candles light the way to words I will not say. Give me everything you have. Fill me up and make me laugh. If I can't have time, I'll fill up with wine. Little bird so far from home, wind bring me back to those eyes like stone.